let's talk about how Suella Braverman is torching the Tories, specifically Rishi Sunak and the kind of globalist wing of the Tory party, which seems to be firmly back in the driver's seat to successfully plough the Conservative Party into the ground. It's really weird that anyone would join the Conservative Party cabinet at this point, because it's such an obvious train wreck that's impending and about to happen. So when they brought back David Cameron, people were like, why? Like, that was a really unexpected move. I realized, okay, David Cameron, why am I thinking about him? And a lot of people are like, well, I mean, surely he's just there to appease China. And apparently the Chinese media agree. They're thrilled. It's like, great.
That's not good PR, is it?
He's just an arch globalist.
Yep.
WEF, shill, bought and paid for, globalist.
Oh, yeah, totally. 100%. I should have got the article up, but a few months ago, I think last year, he wrote an article in the Times saying, we were pale, male, and stale, so I brought in diversity lists and affirmative action hiring lists. And I turned the Conservative Party into the Blairite party it is today.
I wouldn't.
And it's like,
sorry.
Yeah, well, that's something to be ashamed of.
Mm. Yeah, well done, Dave. Slow hand clap.
Yeah, exactly. Don't you have a pig's head to violate? So, inside joke if anyone gets it. Anyway, so the people who are on Suella Braverman's side and just to be clear, I'm just picking up from where Connor left off yesterday. So basic summary is Suella Braverman said correct things, said base things, but everyone was always complaining that, no, she did. She did.
For show, sure.
Well, that's the point, right? That was the point, because everyone was always saying, well, you're in government. I mean, I literally, when she'd tweet something, I'd just buy, aren't you the Home Secretary? Aren't you the Home Secretary? I'd just reply.
That really annoys me that politicians in government, in positions of power, tweet like they're still activists. And I think that social media is letting them get away with it because other people tweet like it. And so it flies under the radar.
It's a bit more than annoying. It's sickening, isn't it?
Yes, but I think actually we have some answers to it now, right? So this is one of the good things about the meltdown in the Conservative Party is actually what it reveals to us is very useful to know. And it shows we can see the sort of, I mean, Jacob Rees-Mogg is not my favorite conservative, but he's on the more conservative side of the Conservative Party. And I think Jacob Rees-Mogg really is just a kind of nimble navigator and tries to just keep his head out of the firing line in order to move through the dangerous waters. But of course, he was against her firing, and we'll see more from him later. So what's interesting is that Rishi Sunak is having trouble filling his cabinet because, of course, why wouldn't you? After firing Suella Braverman, this really annoyed a lot of people because Braverman had just told the truth and had suggested sensible things that would actually fix the problem, and nothing happened. It's like, okay, well, she's the Home Secretary. If she can't make anything happen, why not? And we saw as well how leaks, and when you get like Westminster leaks, Whitehall leaks, they're always, yes, it's obviously the case, especially when it's the civil service cheering that Cruella Braverman was sacked because she was trying to fix the country in some small way. That's definitely representative of the 95% Remain voting civil service. They are definitely in favor of that. And so the Conservatives have got the problem that kind of Trump has had. They've got many problems, but one of the problems they have is the sort of Trump problem where he's fighting the entrenched bureaucracy of the state. Braverman and Priti Patel especially had this problem. Remember, she bullied Philip Pullman or something?
That's an author.
No, it's some guy then. She bullied.
It wasn't Philip Hammond, was it? He's another sort of cabinet.
I can't remember the guy's name at the moment.
Okay.
She was accused.
I'll look it up.
She, the sort of 5'1" Indian lady, was accused of bullying Sir Philip someone.
It's always so pathetic
from the Home Office. Yeah, I know.
Accuse each other of bullying. Is it Philip Davies?
No. He's a policy. It was a civil servant.
Oh, right.
But he was Sir someone. I'm sure it's
permanent secretary of the Home Office, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure his name was Paul.
I know you mean anyway.
Yeah. But he was, bald loser. And he was like, oh, I'm being bullied by Priti Patel. And I was just like, good. That's great. That makes me actually like her now.
Philip Rutnam.
Rutnam, there we go. But anyway, she bullied him. And basically, there's a persistent pattern of the Conservatives, like a relatively based Indian woman conservative, gets put in position of Home Secretary and wants to do things, but the Home Office is totally resistant. Now, a sensible Conservative Party would look at that and go, hang on a second, why is 80% of the Home Office's work immigration? I'm just going to dissolve all of that and fire all those people. 0%. Love my zeros, right? But of course they don't do this. And so Rishi can't fill his cabinet. everyone's really pissed off, and the sort of globalist faction within the Conservative Party don't really have a constituency to appeal to, right? I mean, like, who is David Cameron's base? The same base as Keir Starmer. It's the same people who would vote for the Labour Party or the Liberal Democrats. Like, what constituency are you appealing to? Who was like, God, if only David Cameron would get back into politics. Exactly, right? But there's no like organic constituency of voters that aren't already captured by Keir Starmer. So why would you bring Cameron back? And so obviously the Conservative base is like, oh my God, what are you doing? The Conservative wing of the Conservative Party is just like, right, okay, it looks like it's going to be civil war, which it is. And it looks like Suella Braverman is the person firing the shots.
Hi folks, we've rolled out a new feature on the website, which is the ability to pay for an individual piece of content. So usually it's £5 a month every month to subscribe to all of the content on the website. But I appreciate there are going to be people who simply don't want to do that. They would be interested instead in purchasing a single piece of content for a lower amount, and they've got a particular niche that they're interested in watching. And so they don't want every single piece of content. They just want this one thing. So we've introduced this function where you can just simply purchase the one thing for £1.89, which I think is about $2.30 at the current exchange rates. And then that's just yours forever. So there's no sort of commitment there. There's no rolling subscription. It's just that one thing. So that's an option now that's on the website. It's completely live. It's completely available. And please go and enjoy it. And we'll see you all very soon.
It looks like there's going to be a lot of rumblings in the very near future. One Tory MP anonymously was like, well, we don't think Sunak will make it to the next general election. We're going to lose our seats anyway if we do nothing, so we may as well try to see what will happen with a different leader.
That's fair enough, really.
Entirely possible, but it just makes the Conservative Party look like a roiling mass of chaos, which is really not what the projection that the Conservative Party wants to put forward to the public should be.
But it is a truthful one.
It's a totally truthful one. I mean, how many, this would be what, the fourth Prime Minister in the last year?
It's an utter shambles. I mean, if they're trying to project some sort of competence, well, their constant infighting and that sort of side of things doesn't necessarily suggest that they have the interest of running the country well. Yes. There's a lot of self-serving things going on here.
And I like the reference to the constant shambles, right? They trying to project the feeling of competence, because this is a video that Rishi Sunak put out, or number 10 Downing Street put out, of Rishi Sunak's cabinet after the firing of Suella Braverman. I just thought we'd listen to a few seconds of it and tell me what you think.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome, especially a warm welcome to those for whom it's their first cabinet, and also welcome to those for whom it may not be their first time. Lovely to have you all here. Our purpose is nothing less than to make the long-term decisions that are going to change our country for the better. And I know that this strong and united team is going to deliver that change for everybody. We've got an important week coming up. On Wednesday, we'll have inflation numbers. We'll also have the Supreme Court ruling on our Rwanda plan. And next Wednesday, the Chancellor will be delivering an important autumn statement. And across all of that, I'm confident that we can demonstrate to the country that we're making progress on the priorities that I set out at the beginning of the year.
It strikes me as Metropolitan School Headmaster on an open day. That's what I have in mind.
Metropolitan School Headmaster on an open day in his Führer bunker. Being like, oh yeah, everything's going great. We're strong and united. It's like, you look like a shambles. Like saying, well, we're strong and united. It's like, no, you're obviously not. You just fired your Home Secretary. There's an absolute inferno raging outside of you. And you're sat in your little meeting room going, yeah, everything's going great, isn't it, guys? But no, everyone can tell that you're falling apart from the inside. It's really embarrassing that they would put this video out and think, oh, well, we can just pretend, we'll just keep up the face, and everyone would just be like, oh, everything's going great.
I wouldn't say headmaster. I'd say more like a wannabe head boy. He's like, he's like a 14-year-old nerd of a kid. Like, he's so weak. Everything about him just screams weakness to me.
And he sounds like a CBeebies presenter. He genuinely does. He addresses you like a CBeebies presenter.
To be fair,
I've had to watch a lot of CBeebies because I've got kids, so I know exactly how they come across. And when people started leveling that criticism, I was like, yeah, that's true.
I think he is talking to Tory MPs. That is appropriate language for his target audience of the cabinet here. David
Cameron wasn't in this because he was in India, like arranging to have millions more Indians come here, I think, which is brilliant. But yeah, this video just struck me as a position of total denial of the facts of what's going on. And this was released day before yesterday, or yesterday morning, something like that. Yeah, yesterday morning, before Suella Braverman decided to fire back. And we got reports that she was holding off on her letter for maximum impact, to do maximum damage to Rishi. And good God, this is a great letter. So I thought we'd just read it, because for anyone who's not familiar, the Conservative Party makes a very big show of trying to demonstrate that they're all on the same team, all on the same page, we're all part of the same group. We all, I thank my respected colleague for their service, and we look forward to everything great they do in the future. Suella Braverman's letter took a slightly different tone to that, which I really enjoyed. So I thought I'd read it, right? Dear Prime Minister, thank you for your phone call yesterday morning in which you asked me to leave the government. While disappointing, this is for the best. It has been my privilege to serve as Home Secretary and deliver on what the British people have sent us to Westminster to do. I want to thank all the civil servants, police, border force officers, and security professionals with whom I've worked and whose dedication to public safety is exemplary. Now that's dripping with sarcasm, surely, because all of those people are the problem, right? All of those institutions are the problem.
And the first line's so passive-aggressive.
Yeah.
Thank you for firing me.
Yeah. It's actually hilarious, right? But it gets better. The next paragraph is her saying, well, I'm proud of what we achieved, which is 20,000 new police officers, program of reform on grooming gangs, knife crime, stuff like this, right? But then it gets to the good stuff. She says, as you know, I accepted your offer to serve as Home Secretary in October 2022 on certain conditions. Despite you having been rejected by a majority of party members during the summer leadership contest, and thus having no personal mandate to be Prime Minister, I agreed to support you on the firm assurances you gave me on the key priorities. Bloody hell, Suella. That's great.
I don't doubt that's true as well.
Well, it's completely true. It's completely true, because obviously the membership voted for Truss. He got a third of the votes, and then Truss got absolutely yanked by the internal machinery of the party. And by the globalist machinery of the party. And then Sunak was like, yeah, I'm your boy. And everyone was like, no one wanted you.
It was the Bank of England.
It's interesting. She sort of sets herself up as though she's a kingmaker type figure.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know nothing illegal was done, because it allowed within the Tory party, within their own mechanisms, you can change a leader like that. And by law, you don't have to go back to the country for another mandate.
Yep.
But it does leave you open to the accusation that you have no mandate from the people. Rishi has no mandate to lead the country as head of government from the people.
From the accusation of the former Home Secretary that you just fired for trying to do her job.
I always hate that when Gordon Brown did it, or even when John Major did it when I was young. First time I realised that was possible when I was a kid. Gordon Brown did it, didn't he? Mm-hmm. Anyway, whenever it's done, I always think, like, sort of, how dare you not go back to the people?
Yeah, you slimy Weasley politician.
The rules are unjust in my mind. It's a perversion of democracy that you're allowed to do it.
Yeah, but anyway, let's carry on, because it doesn't. This is just the opening salvo, right? So these priorities were, among other things, 1, reduce overall legal migration as set out in the 2019 manifesto through, inter alia, reforming the international students route and increasing salary threshold on work visas. Okay, that's great. That's something rare for a Conservative to say. Reduce legal migration, because normally they try to kick it to the small boats, because that's a drop in the ocean, but it allows them to divert the attention onto something that there's just no argument against, right?
It's more emotively frustrating, and for people who aren't clued into politics, they see that as the greater indiscretion, because there's a greater affront to the dignity of the British people.
Absolutely, but it's not the real problem.
Yes.
Number 2, include specific notwithstanding clauses into new legislation to stop the boats, i.e. exclude the operation of the European Convention on Human Rights, Human Rights Act, and other international law that has thus obstructed progress on the issue. So the small boats are the second issue. Primary issue is just immigration overall, then the small boats. Good job so far, Suella, right? Deliver the Northern Ireland Protocol and retained EU law bills in their then existing timeline, and issue unequivocal statutory guidance to schools that protects biological sex, safeguards single-sex spaces, and empowers parents to know what is being taught to the children. Brilliant. Love everything about it so far, right? This was a document with clear terms which you agreed to in October 2022 during the second leadership campaign. I trusted you. It is generally agreed that my support was a pivotal factor in winning the leadership contest and thus enabling you to become Prime Minister. For a year as Home Secretary, I've sent numerous letters to you on key subjects contained in our agreement, made requests to discuss them with you and your team, and put forward proposals on how we might deliver these goals. I worked up the legal advice, policy detail, and action to take on these issues. This was often met with equivocation, disregard, and a lack of interest. You have manifestly and repeatedly failed to deliver on every single one of these key policies. Either your distinctive style of government means you are incapable of doing so, or, as I must surely conclude now, you never had any intention of keeping your promises. I mean, this is brutal.
But you waited until you were pushed, though, Suella.
Sure,
So,
and I'm sympathetic to that criticism, but the argument would be, well, if I just quit, I'd get no influence over it at all. I'd have no particular platform from which to continue making the debate.
But be morally bankrupt, yeah. I mean,
sure, but
roundabouts, I suppose.
Sure, but I am sympathetic to the argument, but I think there is also another argument that is fair enough.
More political capital if you're fired by someone you disagree with, I think. Is the argument, isn't it?
Maybe, but as in you, if you're outside of the government, you've got no particular leverage at all. If you're the Home Secretary, at least you can say, well, I'm the Home Secretary, why aren't you doing what I'm saying that we should do? But she carries on. These are not just pet interests of mine. They are what we promised the British people in our 2019 manifesto, which led to a landslide victory. They are what people voted for in the 2016 Brexit referendum. Totally agree with all that. That's great. Our deal was no mere promise over dinner to be discarded when convenient and denied when challenged. I was clear from day one, if you did not wish to leave the ECHR, the European Court of Human Rights, the way to securely and swiftly deliver our Rwanda partnership would be block off the ECHR and the Human Rights Act and any other obligations which inhibit our ability to remove those with no right to be in the UK. Our deal expressly referenced notwithstanding clauses to that effect. Your rejection of this path was not merely a betrayal of our agreement, but a betrayal of your promise to the nation that you would do whatever it takes to stop the boats. At every stage of litigation, I cautioned you and your team against assuming we would win. I repeatedly urged you to take legislative measures that would better secure us against the possibility of defeat. You ignored these arguments. You opted instead for wishful thinking as a comfort blanket to avoid having to make hard choices. This irresponsibility has wasted time and left the country in an impossible position. I mean, this is savage. Like, she is not pulling any punches here. She's like, Rishi, you stopped this by being essentially a wastrel. It's like, yeah, agreed. If we lose in the Supreme Court, which we'll talk about in a minute, an outcome which I've consistently argued we must be prepared for, you will have wasted a year and an act of parliament only to arrive back at square one. Worse than this, your magical thinking, believing that you can will your way through this without upsetting polite opinion, has meant that you failed to prepare any sort of credible plan B. I wrote you on multiple occasions, setting out a credible plan, what a credible plan B would entail, and making it clear that unless you pursue these proposals, in the event of the defeat, there is no hope of flights this side of an election. I received no reply from you. I can only surmise this is because you have no appetite for doing what is necessary and therefore no real intention of fulfilling your pledge to the British people. She carries on, but like, it's continual just punches below the belt, basically. What a normal Conservative Party would never do, right? And so, good for her.
Well, I don't give her any credit.
I know.
No, that she's trying to set herself up to be the next leader.
Yes.
I think she's put her career before the interests of the country repeatedly. I've got no sympathy for her or someone like Priti Patel. The Tories have been in government for 13 years.
Yes.
They could have made new departments.
Yep.
They could have repealed all sorts of things. They could have stamped their authority on the policy.
Yes.
And every single day, including all her time in office, they've refused to do so.
That's all true.
They allowed the enemies of this country to flourish under their misgovernment.
That's all totally true, but can I not just enjoy the stabbing for a minute?
Yeah, fair enough.
Just on a small scale. Come on.
Briefly.
Let me have
I'll allow
fun.
Very briefly. But I don't give her any credit.
You're obviously correct about everything you're saying, and every Conservative government since David Cameron is guilty exactly of all the failures.
I mean, you talk about the globalist wing and the Conservative wing of the Conservative Party. I don't really see much of that. I see all the words in here, so the things Lee Anderson's been saying today. It's all part of the same game. It's all part of the game of we'll reduce immigration to 10,000 and then we're being flooded faster and faster and faster exponentially, endlessly.
Yeah.
I don't buy any of it anymore.
I think there are factions within the Conservative Party, and I think what we're witnessing is essentially a civil war between the parochial patriotic Conservative faction and the globalist faction. The globalist faction is really, really powerful, though. But this could be a complete tanking for them.
If they were all on the same team, though, they wouldn't have public infighting.
Yeah, this wouldn't be happening. Like, this is an unprecedented letter. Like no one has ever written a letter like this before, to my knowledge, because it's like, oh, my standing in the party. But this is knives are out. You're useless. You deliberately blocked me at every point. And to be honest with you, she's probably telling the truth.
Yeah, there's some power. I don't think so. There's some power on the line. I don't believe anything that they're saying. I mean, I think you'd have to be quite credulous to at this point, to be perfectly honest. I mean, they're liars.
Yes.
Moral bankrupts.
Yes.
Traitors.
Yes.
Self-seeking tricksters.
Yes. But some of them don't want to be, I think, is what we can take away from it. But anyway,
I think. Sorry.
So no, go on.
I was just going to say, I think, Bo, you are right in that most politicians seem to be largely motivated by self-interest, although they do.
She's ambitious. That's what this letter is.
Yeah.
Sure, but like, I don't. How's that a fault?
When it's at the expense of the public will.
I don't think you can point to Suella Braverman's behaviour and say, well, she's not tried to get stuff done. I do think, actually, she's coming up against the globalist wing of the Conservative Party. I think they've been shutting her down. I mean, I don't think that she's telling a lie in that little essay. And she's been consistent on these points. But like, I appreciate that zooming out, that is a generally broad characterization of the Conservative Party. But at higher resolution, you can find areas in the Conservative Party that are essentially being suppressed by the sort of Blairite faction in the Conservative Party. And if we can get rid of the Blairite faction, then maybe we could have something that would actually approximate to a useful government. But that's not going to come this side of an election, just so we know.
She talks about the Rwanda program.
Yeah.
That was only ever an exchange program.
Yes.
So that was nothing.
Yeah,
she mentions with one word the legal immigration. I would bet my bottom dollar that if she became Prime Minister, there wouldn't suddenly be a massive change in policy and flights, and she'd get rid of the Supreme Court and the ECHR, and suddenly we'd be deporting thousands and thousands of people. No.
I wouldn't bet against,
because she's just as much a creature of globalism as they are, and this is all just a power play.
Maybe that is the cynical interpretation, but I'm going to take the less cynical interpretation. I'm not saying I didn't say it was the wrong interpretation. Okay, I didn't say mine was the right interpretation. I just said that I'm going to be a little less cynical. But anyway, as you can see, Mog starts signal boosting this, and I mean, Suella's tweet got 30 million views on it as well. So this was a really public torching of her former boss, and so you've got to be able to enjoy that at the very least.
Yeah, no, if I can just dial myself back a little bit, it was delicious to see her dig some claws into Sunak, who is, I mean,
awful.
He's a cuckoo in the nest. I mean, he's a creature of the WEF, of Davos, of interests above and beyond that of the voting public.
Yes, 100%. And so it is nice to see that there is a conservative wing in the Conservative Party that can at least now voice themselves. She's at least, broken through in that way, which is decent. And then you've got the new Conservatives, which are the half-decent Conservatives left in the Conservative Party, led by Miriam Cates and Danny Kruger, who are, of course, on her side in single boost. So you have an active movement within the party that's like, look, you guys are terrible. You're doing everything everyone hates. You're betraying the 2019 manifesto promises. You're betraying Brexit. You're betraying everything about this country. So they are basically saying the same thing as you, just in slightly nicer language and with a little less venom. I'm not blaming you at all.
Such things are beyond good manners, sir.
I didn't say they weren't. But then what do you think Rishi Sunak's response to Suella Braverman being very specific and totally cutting towards him was?
I don't know. Ignore it, try and laugh at it. I don't know.
The PM thanks the Home Secretary for her service. The PM believes in actions, not words. Are you effing kidding me?
That's some excellent hypocrisy there, isn't it?
It's just wild. It's just total denial of reality. Like the plastic rhetoric of Rishi Sunak saying, we believe in actions, not words. It's like, but Suella Braverman is literally showing how all you have done is block her and taken no action whatsoever. So, okay, well, let's take you on your actions then. You want mass immigration. You want illegal immigrants. You want the ECHR to, ECHR, yeah, that's correct, to be the ruling legislative body of this country. You want these things. You want all of these things. That's your actions then, Rishi.
Oh, and a layer of censorship over the top. So,
of course.
So men fear for prosecution lest they speak their minds.
Yeah, and you want all of the radical trans stuff. You want all of this.
And central bank digital currency as well.
Yeah, he definitely wants that.
Which is terrifying.
Yeah. But so you're totally on board with the global agenda, and you're a liar and a traitor. I said, okay, great. That's your response shows this. Fantastic. So Braverman is plotting a Tory rebellion. I'm not so angry about ambition. I'd like some ambitious people who want to deport loads of foreigners, actually. I think we need some ambitious people about doing that. As the Guardian reports, hard right Tory factions. Fantastic. I love the
hard
idea.
Right, really?
Yeah, Jacob Rees-Mogg, basically.
Right, okay.
But it's the Guardian reporting, of course. But they're due to hold a meeting 30 minutes after the Supreme Court releases its verdict on the Rwanda plan, and whether to call to leave the ECHR. I mean, they've been calling for this for years. Suella Braverman has been actually saying this. So, okay, if they go against government, they're going to look for further advice, which is obviously going to put them on a collision course with Sunak, and Sunak's in a particularly precarious position anyway, so it's entirely likely that he's going down. Sunak, of course, is expected to argue in favor of remaining in the ECHR, which is wild considering everything that's happened, because he fears leaving it could damage relations with Joe Biden.
Who cares? Yeah.
How much longer is Joe Biden going to occupy his bloody office?
If
Zelensky was like, hey, Trump, do you want to come over and have dinner in Ukraine with me? He wasn't Joe Biden, do you want to come over? Joe Biden's not long. He's about as long for this world as Rishi Sunak is.
If the Prime Minister actually had a set of testicles, they should be dunking on Joe Biden. It's easy political points.
Yeah.
And, even some on the left are now saying, actually, Joe Biden's useless in America.
Oh,
so, yeah,
60, 70% of the Democrats themselves don't want Biden.
Most of Europe pretty skeptical of him because of his handling of international affairs.
His allies in the Middle East won't even have meetings with him. The Saudis refuse meetings with Biden.
It's easy home runs, isn't it? And yet they're not doing it. We should be saying he's useless, worthless, get rid of him.
Yeah.
And that would help them out. But alas.
It's all just nonsense. It's all just misdirection. He doesn't want to leave the ECHR because the plan of his overlords is to keep us flooded with foreign people.
Yeah. So anyway.
It's nonsense.
I totally agree. Anyway, breaking news. Guess what the Supreme Court decided? They literally said, quote, it was in breach of EU law, the Rwanda plan. And it's like,
Brexit means Brexit. Get lost.
Yeah, okay, well, let's ask the Supreme Court what they think of Brexit. They tried to scupper Brexit. Remember the spider brooch lady?
Yeah, they tried everything they possibly could.
For anyone who is curious, the Supreme Court, I think, was instituted in 2007 and actually came into being in 2009. Labour invention. One of Tony Blair's abominable constitutional
in his
reforms.
Election manifesto.
Yeah, I have T-shirts older than the Supreme Court of the United Kingdom. Dismiss it. Just get rid of it. Dissolve it.
It's also
fire them.
It's also a sort of legal abomination.
Yes.
Like it goes against our legal practices.
Yes,
have fared us, well-ish.
It's at odds
the Magna
with
Carta.
It's at odds with the common law.
Yeah.
It's there purely to damage the authority of Westminster.
Yeah.
And some people, lefty boomer types, Blairite types, Labour people and Lib Dems, they try and make out as though we never had any liberty. There was no rule of law before we had the Supreme Court.
We invented the concept, you freaks.
And that's the correct reaction. Yeah.
Okay, no. Go.
It should be swept away.
Absolutely. I'd dismantle it, bulldoze it over, and build a nice park where people can walk in the sun or something. Just whatever. Just get rid of it, right? So anyway, in the beginning of October, the Conservatives sucked in the polls. 24% to Labour's 44%.
I think this is for the month of October.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so this is a very brief, before all of this chaos kicked off, the Conservatives were sucking, right? Really sucking, like due to have a really, really historically bad defeat. Hundreds of Conservative MPs are going to get politically slaughtered at the polls here.
It's interesting. Ipsos has decided not to put Reform on there, which is currently polling at about 11%.
Well, we'll get to that.
Oh, good. Okay, okay, all right. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Because back then, actually, they did get folded into other because they were about 7 or 8%, right? But let's see the latest. Oh, Conservatives below 20%. 19% for the Conservatives. Reform at 11, which is fantastic, which is above Greens and the Lib Dems, which, as you can see in October, they were below. So the Reform are actually starting to gain some momentum here. Is it conceivable that if in a couple of weeks, more chaos, the Conservatives, Reform, arrive at about the 14, 15% that UKIP did, and the Conservatives get down to about the 14, 15% range? Right? Like, this is genuinely an existential crisis for the Conservative Party at this point. Now, I know there are people on your side who are like, destroy it. I'm like, well, maybe we should take it over. Either way, I don't care, as long as we get some party that acts in our interests as British people to move forward. I'm very flexible on how this is done. It just has to happen. Immigration has to stop. Obviously, the reform guys are just loving this, going very, very well. Lots of good statements from Tice and stuff like that saying, yes, we're finally gaining some ground. Fantastic, brilliant. Thank God. Sunak will be giving a press conference today at 4:45 p.m. because we have the Rwanda judgment. I know this is going on, but there's a lot happening, right? So this was not the outcome we wanted, but we spent the last few months planning for all eventualities and remain completely committed to stopping the boats. Suella has already scuppered this narrative, right? She has demonstrated. She said, look, you didn't reply to any of my emails. You blocked me at every turn. You made sure this couldn't happen. And so him coming out and going, we committed to something, but you're not. She's already nailed you on that one, right? This is not the outcome you wanted. Well, if it wasn't, why didn't you have a contingency plan? Why no plan B? Why not leave the ECHR? Why not repeal the Human Rights Act? Why not do anything? They've done nothing and just magically thought that somehow the Supreme Court would be on their side. They've got nothing. Chaos is what we're seeing. Like, they've got no plan, unless this is the plan, right?
So first and foremost, Parliament has the ability to get rid of these foreign laws.
Parliament's got the ability to legislate the sky is purple.
Yeah, well, that's how it should be, right? Yeah. And so they're acting as if they're limited and they've got their hands tied when they're obviously not. And I think Rishi Sunak here is hoping that people haven't read Suella's letter.
30 million people on Twitter alone saw it, and obviously it was in all the papers. Everyone's seen Suella.
Normally, a minister's resignation letter isn't as well viewed as that. Maybe he's made a miscalculation here.
Yes.
Which maybe. I think is likely.
It's just, to Rishi, just stop lying, liar. We know you're lying, liar.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
Get real. Like, what exactly planet is he living on?
Like going back to this, like, just plastic. These are just liars. These are the group of condemned men. Like, they know they're about to take, literally historic. Like this, the 19%, right? This is probably going to equate to something like 60 or 70 MPs. Like, the Conservatives are literally going to lose like 320 MPs. There has never been a defeat of a ruling party that bad in all of British history. Like, there's never been. This is the worst it could possibly be. And they're like, yes, we're the strong united cabinet. It's like, no, you are literally about to hang tomorrow. It's crazy. They're all rich, so obviously this isn't their problem. And they're not like...
he's got his ankles wet on a sinking ship and he's still acting like it can sail.
Yeah, exactly. It's literally, I'm going to put new people in my cabinet. It's like, why do you want to rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic? You're sinking. What are you doing? Get out.
What they've really done is acted for years on end now against the sort of clear voice of the people.
Yes.
Installed a type of soft tyranny.
And just to be clear on that, the repeated demonstrations of the clear voice of the people, like there have been at least like 4 elections where the Conservatives won very successfully, and in 2019, accumulating in the Boris smashing victory, that have all been do the things that Brexit implies. That's all it's been.
And keep changing the leader without going back to the people. It's like it's an immovable party.
Yes. Like the globalists have such a firm handle.
Right, yeah, some sort of uni-party thing. And that's more obnoxious than a tyrannical king.
Yes.
Or something.
Yeah.
We removed kings for such as this.
Yes.
Well, they shall be removed.
Well, 19% in the polls. Like, it looks like they're going to get removed. So anyway, I thought we'd just go to this quick post by Dominic Cummings, which I think is interesting because he's basically come to the same conclusions that we have. He's like, look, Sunak's debacle is a great example of relatively clever people trying to create complex fudges to fool NPCs. Such tricks on ECHR have worked with dummy Tory MPs and Mail Sun Telegraph for over a decade, but they don't solve real problems. The actual solution is repeal the Human Rights Act, withdraw from the European Court of Human Rights, primary legislation empowering the government to use the Navy to stop the boats and prevent anyone on them claiming anything here under any international law of any kind, explicitly naming international law that does not apply, and explicitly limiting the power of the Supreme Court to interfere, dissolve the Supreme Court, International law can only be enforced in UK courts if Parliament allows it, as in reclaim the sovereignty of Parliament, which is what people voted for in Brexit. Blaming judges is, as always, stupid. The debacle is not the fault of the judges, it's the fault of our useless MPs. Totally true. Although the judges aren't exactly great. MPs could solve the boat problem. It is not even one of the 100 hardest problems we face. But they don't, because they prefer to fool themselves and rather face reality. They are more afraid of fighting Whitehall than of failing and losing. As in, they're more afraid of going up against the civil service. Like, yeah, well, you should have been brutal with them.
That reads like I wrote it myself.
And that shows that they are truly spineless.
Yes.
Truly, truly spineless.
Yeah.
A government leadership, you wield the power. If you don't wield it, then the civil service will run roughshod over you.
Yes.
And I don't think it's stupidity or incompetence. They're choosing not to.
Yes.
They're choosing not to.
Just as a quick ender to this segment, where's Nigel Farage at the moment? Nigel Farage is on I'm a Celebrity 2023. He's in a jungle off the coast of Australia somewhere.
Might be worth explaining what this show is to our foreign audience.
For anyone who doesn't know, I'm a Celebrity is literally as it sounds. A bunch of celebrities are sent off to some desert island somewhere, a jungle
Australia,
island somewhere, to eat bugs and essentially be kind of humiliated. But the British public love it. Matt Hancock, the former health secretary, who everyone hated, went on it and came third because all he did is just eat the bugs. He just,
as Klaus intended.
Whatever it is, and people respect the fact that you'll just dig in and do it. Nigel's already quite a popular figure. I imagine that he'll just knuckle under. He knows the game here, right? And what this will probably do is raise his popularity just overall in the country. But yeah, Nigel was all right. He ate those bull's testicles or whatever it is that they put in front of you without complaining, and I respect that, right? And that's what the general public.
What a weird world we live in, that the anti-globalist candidate is going to go on TV, eat some bugs, and his approval is going to go up.
Yes, but this is a well-trodden path at this point, actually, and millions of normies watch this, right? And so the situation but Nigel Farage doesn't have internet access in the jungle, so he has no idea that any of this is going on. So when he comes out, it's going to be like that scene in Community where Donald Glover comes in with the pizzas and everything's just on fire. The Tories sub 20% approval rating, cabinet unfilled, everything tanking, like knives at, Farage is going to come back tanned, popular, and enriched because he's being paid £1.5 million to do this. And in the prime position, say, you know what we need is an actual Conservative government, and so Farage is going to be, it looks like Farage is going to be perfectly placed to just start smashing things down, especially if they have to call an election because Sunak's government falls apart. Which is entirely possible. So it could be before this side of Christmas, maybe, that we have to have a snap election. Who knows?
Thanks for watching that segment from the podcast Lotus Eaters. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did and want to find more of what we do, you can subscribe to our website for as little as £5 per month to find all of the video series we've got on there, including Dan's Brokenomics series, the most recent episode of which he's talking with Dr. Ahmed Malik about the current state of the NHS. When signing up, if you use Stripe and sign up using the code BIRTHDAY, you can get 33% off of your first 3 months. So take advantage of that discount while you can. And if you'd like to follow Dan and see what he gets up to, then you can follow him on Twitter at KingBingo_ and see what he gets up to. So thanks very much for watching and take care.